Daf Yomi is sponsored for the week by Mrs. Sylvie Wald and Jeffrey and Chava Bela Wald, Le'ili Nishmas Jeff's father, Avram ben Shmuel, and grandfather Menachem Mendel ben Mordechai, whose yortzites were on the 1st of Nisan. Today's Daf is sponsored by Michael Tzaidi. With gratitude to Hashem for our amazing shul, Rav, and congregation, we are finishing all but finishing Maseches Sanhedrin Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. One of the last things Mishnah said was Kisvei HaKodesh, those holy scriptures that are found in an Ir Nidachas, in a city that is worshiping idols, they have to get buried. So Masnisin, says the Gemara, Masnisin Delo Rabbi Eliezer. Our Mishnah does not follow Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. How do we know that? Because Tanya, we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol ir sheyesh ba afilu mezuzah achas. Any city that even has a single mezuzah in it, and for sure, if it has other scriptures in it, can't be an ir nidachas in the first place. So therefore, our Mishnah is saying that you have to bury all of the holy objects that are in the city. That means that it can be somehow a city convicted of worshiping Avodah Zarah and have holy things in it. But Rabbi Eliezer says that if it's got one single mezuzah, cannot be an ir nidachas. Because Shnemar's pasuk says, "V'sarafta ba'esh es ha'ir v'eskol shlola kalil." You have to burn everything in the city, and all of the materials, everything, all that's in it. As we said yesterday, v'hecha de'ika mezuzah lo efshar. But if there's a single mezuzah, that's not possible. Why? Dichsiv, because we have a prohibition. And it says, Lo sasun kein Hashem Elokechem, you are not allowed. It says you're supposed to destroy all idolatry, but you may not do so to Hashem. So therefore, you're not allowed to destroy anything holy in the service of, you're not allowed to destroy anything that's used in the service of Hashem. Therefore, Rabbi Eliezer holds you would not be allowed to destroy any of the holy writings of an Ir Nidachas. Rabbi Shimon says, Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu. Now, this continues that Rabbi Shimon says that there's supposed to be a destroyed location, has to remain destroyed. Lema, Rabbi Abin, Amar Rabbi Eloi Kamefiligi. Let's say this argument between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva disputed whether you can plant a garden, have a park on the site of where the Ir Nidachas used to be, because you can't rebuild it. So Rabbi Yossi said you cannot rebuild it at all, can't put anything there, no parks, nothing. And Rabbi Akiva says you can't rebuild it to what it was. Right? This is not really building, just planting some gardens is acceptable. So let's say this is the argument. The argument is what Rabbi Abin said in the name of Rabbi Eloi. Amar Rabbi Abin, Amar Rabbi Eloi. Kol mokom shatim motzi klal aseh uprat belos aseh ein danon also beklal uprat. We have a rule. It's number 4 in our Rabbi Yishmael Omers. If you were saying them in the morning, it says it's called a klal uprat. Klal Prat means that when the Torah gives a general rule and then gives a specific right afterwards, the specific is a complete limiter of what's in the general rule, right? Only things that are similar or exactly like the example that the Torah gives is what applies to the general rule. We don't say the general rule is everything and that one specific is an example. We say the Torah is giving this as an example for a reason, in order to teach us it's just like this. Now, the question is, when you have a general rule and a specific in this kind of format, does it apply to this rule? Meaning, here's our rule. The rule is that you shall do one thing, you shall destroy the city, and then you shall not rebuild it, which is a prohibition. Do you consider this in the category of a general rule, that you have to create the destruction and then a specific prohibition to rebuild it as it was? Or this is a whole different thing. This is a positive commandment and a negative commandment. It has nothing to do with the rule of klal uprat, right? So that's the question. Is this a klal? Right? Doesn't sound like klal. There you go. Demar isle derbi abin. One says, like Rabbi Abin says, right? That if you're going to find a positive and a commandment, this is not a positive and a negative, like Brian says, that does not sound like a klal uprat. That's not how that works.
So I have a question.
Yes.
If one of the rabbis say you cannot build anything on it.
Correct.
Rabbi Akiva says
you can build a garden.
You can build a garden or whatever.
Yep.
Who do we follow?
They vote. They would vote. And whoever had the majority at that time was the halacha was like that person.
Happened?
So I believe that.
So
in practical terms, well, we're never going to have an Ir Nidachas in the first place, because in practical terms, you need a Sanhedrin. We don't have a Sanhedrin, because in order to have a Sanhedrin, you need a Beis HaMikdash.
So this does not affect us.
This is, as we say, we are learning this for the sake of accepting and receiving reward. Right? We're not doing this. We're not learning this Gemara for practical reasons.
Okay.
Right? We're not going to really have to do this stuff. Right? So I'm not exactly sure where the halacha stands. That's the other. That's the other thing.
Right.
It probably is a halacha, but I'm not quite sure who. So one holds like Rabbi Abin and one doesn't. So no, that's not what's going on here. Dekuliyama islahu li Rabbi Abin. Everyone agrees with this concept that it's not a klal prat. That's not the issue here. The argument between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi is what? Klal prat. Thank you. This general rule with the specific that follows. So where do we? This is the argument. Mar savar od legamri that one holds that Mar savar od legamri mashma, that when the Torah says that you shall not rebuild it, and it has the word od again at all, so you cannot build it anymore. One says that means no building whatsoever, no gardens, nothing. Umar savar od, that the word od means kimasha haisa, that you can't build it back as it was, as a city. However, Likimosha haisa eno nifnis. It cannot be rebuilt as it was. Aval nasis who ganotu partisim, but that would permit you to build it to gardens and orchards. So that's the argument about how you interpret the word od. Again, Tana Rabbanim. Okay, our rabbis learned hayuba ilonos tulushin asurin. In this city, we had to destroy everything. If you had a tree that was uprooted from beforehand, so then that tree is prohibited and it must be destroyed. Mechubarin, but if the tree was planted in the ground, mutarin, that would be acceptable. That's fine because it is not considered to be, even though you can get benefit from that tree, because that tree is considered to be not mamo, not valuables of the city, but something that is attached to the ground. Shel ir acheres, bein telushin, bein mechubarin aser. If this is a tree which belongs to another city, so then this, whether it's planted in the ground or it is uprooted, it becomes prohibited. Now the question is, what does this mean? It belongs to another city. My iracharis, what is the meaning of this phrase if it belongs to another city? So the answer is, we're talking about a different circumstance where a city has a prohibition of getting any benefit from it. And that is, Amar Rav Chisda, Yericho. This refers to the curse, the famous curse about the city of Yericho. What's the famous curse? The pasuk says, "V'ha'isa ha'ir cherem laHashem." This city is going to be a property that you are not allowed to touch for Hashem. You can't do anything with this at all. You're never allowed to rebuild the city of Yericho.
But walking into it, are you allowed to walk into it?
There is no city, right? It got destroyed, and there's nothing to walk into. But you can't rebuild it.
Jericho and
Here we go. Okay, so the answer is yes, there has been, but there's a problem with, right? It becomes cursed. So says the pasuk, Vayish ba Yoshua ba'esahi lemor. Yoshua made the following promise. Arur ha'ish lifnei Hashem, cursed is the one before Hashem, Asher Yakum, who gets up, uvana es ha'ir hazos es Yericho, and rebuilds this city, Jericho, Yericho. Bivchoro yisadena, he's going to lose his firstborn child when he starts building the city. Ubitziro yotziv dilaseha, and when he establishes and closes the gates to finish the city, that's when he's going to lose his youngest child.
So did that happen?
Yes, Tanya, as we learned in a brisa. Lo Yericho, al shem ir acheres, lo ir acheres, al shem Yericho. This curse against building Yericho goes two ways. Not only can you cannot build any city of any name on the site where Yericho once was, and the second thing is you cannot build any city and name it Yericho, even if it's not on the site. Those are both the curse. Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, Bana Chiel ubas ha'eli es Yericho, that Chiel, who was from the cursed house, Rashi says, he rebuilt Yericho. As you said, did it ever happen? So he did it. Ba'aviro bechoro yisda, and he lost his oldest child when he started building it. Ubiskuv tziro hitziv delaseha, and when he completed the city, his youngest child died as well. So in fact, the curse came true. But that's how Yericho got rebuilt. I guess we have a Yericho nowadays, right? So be careful with that. Tanya. So we learn, and I think there are Yerichos. I don't know if it applies only in Eretz Yisrael, because there are Yerichos in the United States and to Jerichos in the United States, places like that. I remember the place.
Jericho, I'm trying to remember where.
There is one.
Through it.
As long as it's
So I wonder
the only one that's cursed.
which one applies.
The only one that's cursed is the one in Israel.
I wonder if Eretz Yisrael the curse applies there or something. So, but there is one there.
Would it occur to any city Jericho built anywhere? Or
That's what I'm wondering. So I would stay away from it. If I'm you and you're building, if you start to build a city, just name it something else.
Yeah.
Right? Don't. It's a good idea. Tanya. I would fool around with this. We learned in Ibraisa, Pavira Bechoro Rasha, when he built his city, his oldest wicked son, Aviram, died. Lo haya lo lil mode, but he couldn't learn anything from that, right? That could have been coincidence, or his wicked son could have been guilty of some other crime, and that's why he died. Biskuv tziro, but when his youngest son died, haya lo lil mode, he should have learned and come to the conclusion that building Yericho is a bad idea. So Aviram Uskuv my avud. Well, what did they do wrong? What did Aviram and Seguv do that they should die while their father was building the city? So no, they weren't wicked people. Hachikamer, this is what it means. Ba'aviram bechoro, when his firstborn child died, hayalo lilmod lo sorasha, that wicked person, Chiel, who was building the city, should have realized, Biskuv tziro, that when his youngest child died, the cause of death was building Yericho, right? He should have put this is awfully coincidental that my children are dying, and so therefore he should have learned and figured it out. Now, mimash meshenemar ba'aviram bechoro, if we know that Aviram is his oldest son, eini yodea seguv tziro, don't I know that Seguv is his youngest son? Matal malomar seguv tziro, why does it have to tell me that Seguv was his younger son? So the answer is, malami chaya mekaber b'holich me Aviram ad Seguv, because he had many children. And what was happening is, as the building would proceed, as he would get to stage 1, stage 2, somebody else would die. And he would go along until finally his youngest son died at the completion of the project. Now, Achav, the wicked king Achav that we have learned about, Shushbine Hava, he was Chiel's good friend. Okay? And also Ihu ve'Eliyahu lemishael bishlama be Tamya. So when his children died, so Achav and Eliyahu Hanavi came to check on him and make a shiva call. So Yosef ve'Kamer, and they were sitting there and they had the following conversation. Eliyahu Hanavi lived at that time, right? So that was they're all contemporaries. Dilma ki melet Yoshua hachi lot. Maybe, this is what Achav says, maybe Yoshua, when he made this curse, this is what he meant. Lo Yericho al shem iracheres, lo iracheres al shem Yericho. That, maybe building a city named Yericho is a bad idea. Maybe he meant that not only can you not rebuild the city of Yericho and call it something else, but you also can't build a new city and call it Yericho. Can't do that. So Amarle, Eliyahu, so Eliyahu says, I can confirm that's exactly what Yoshua meant, right? So that was a terrible mistake on your part.
That's your question.
Right, so what?
Well, it said both ways. You're not allowed to build again the city and name it something else.
Right, but we were talking about Nirni Dachas before, right? We didn't know about Yericho, right? The other question, unless we had more than one question. Which question?
No, you said, can I build this city named Yericho?
So that's, but... Right. I'm not sure if it's only in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know if it's only in Eretz Yisrael, right? So that I don't know.
It sounds plain.
Yeah, it does sound plain. So Amar Le, that's why I said don't fool around with it. Amar Le. So Achav says to Eliyahu, Hashta levatisa de Moshe lo k'mekayma. Achav says, I have a problem with that. Moshe Rabbeinu had a curse, and it never came true. Dichsiv v'sartem va'avadetem, right? In Shema, it says that if you worship Avodah Zarah, if you worship idol worship, then the rain's going to stop. And that hasn't happened. We're worshiping lots of Avodah Zarah, Achav says, and the rain's coming, right? It's still raining. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu's curse isn't true. Ksiv, v'chara af Hashem b'chem, that Hashem's going to get angry, v'atzar z'shemayim, he's going to stop the rain from coming. V'ahu gavra, okim le'avodos kechavim, I'll call Talim v'Talim. And he says, and I, proud of himself, I made an idolatrous idol on every hill in the whole place, right? There's idolatry all over the place. Still rains. So a little shavik le mitra le mezol mizgalei. So he says rain is still coming, and because the rain is coming, I can't even get to all of my avodah zarah. It's hard to get around here, but there's so much rain. Therefore he asks, levatis of the Yeshua talmidei mekayma. How could his curse come true, right? If Moshe Rabbeinu's curse, right, his student Yoshua's curse, how can that come true? So vayomer Eliyahu Tishbi. So immediately, as soon as he heard that chutzpahdik statement from Achav, vayomer Eliyahu Tishbi said, Mitoshave Gilad, he was from amongst those who lived in Gilad, Chai Hashem Elokei Yisrael, I swear by the life of Hashem, the God of Israel, Im yiyeh tal u'matar, there will be no more rain. And Yoshua prohibited rain from coming.
I thought you know that's for the God. And here
Yoshua was doing he was making a prophetic statement, right? We can't do it, right? Can't do that. But Yoshua, but Eliyahu was doing that.
FYI,
yes,
there are 29 places in the world named Jericho.
There you go, 29. I don't know what happens.
7 different countries.
So you have to be careful. Boy Rachmi. So Eliyahu Navi davened, v'hevi le aklida demitra, and God bestowed upon him the key of rain. Meaning that Yoshua was given the authority and the power to decide when it rains and if it rains, right? So therefore, it stopped raining. The Kamva Azil, so Yeshua got up and he left. He says, that's it, no more rain. Achav, you're going to be that chutzpahdik, no more rain, and he left. Okay. Then what happens is,
Is Yeshua ben Nun? No.
this was Eliyahu Navi. To
Right,
Achav.
he said Yeshua.
I'm sorry, Eliyahu Navi.
right.
He kept the curse of fulfilled the curse of Moshe Rabbeinu, right?
Right.
This
Okay,
is the same Eliyahu who comes on Pesach?
that's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Vayhi, welcome. You can ask any questions on the Gemara when he comes. Ask him. Vayhi Dvar Hashem Elav Lemor. So Hashem said to him, said to Eliyahu, Lech Miza, you got to leave here. Ufanisa lecha kedma, go to the east. V'nistarta benachal Kris. You got to go hide in the forest of Kris. That's where you're going to go hide, because obviously Achav and everybody's going to try to kill you now, knowing that you're the reason why there's going to be no rain. So va'orvim meviim lolechem ubasar baboker, and Hashem made a miracle, and ravens were bringing him food every morning and every night, bringing him food, bread and meat. So mehecha, where were the ravens getting bread and meat from? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Rabbi Rav, mi beit tabchei da'achav. They would sneak into Achav's kitchens, steal food, and bring it out to Eliyahu Navi. That's the ravens. Okay. Right. Sometimes you hear things like other religions and things pick up, right? So Odin, whatever, in the Greek mythology, in the Norse mythology, has ravens that follow him around and things. I wonder whether these things come from, these real stories and things. So, they didn't. I don't know if they bring the meat in the. I guess he had to bring in the. Vayhimi kates yamim vayivash hanachal. So eventually, Hashem is like, this is enough, right? There's no rain, and Eliyahu Navi, he is not one to give up. So he's not holding back on the rain. So what does Hashem do? After a year, so the river that was by where Eliyahu Navi was staying dried up. Ki lo haya geshem because there's no rain. When Hashem saw that the whole world was suffering, he figured it got to get Eliyahu to give up this, right? So Ksiv vahidvar Hashem elav lemor. So Hashem spoke to Eliyahu and he said, Kum lech Tzarfasa, go to Tzarfas, right, a city in the north, right? I think it's in the north. Uksiv vayhi achar dvar ma'ela. So therefore, he set in motion a series of things which made Eliyahu a Navi. Right, he built this relationship. There was this woman who had a household that would allow Eliyahu Navi to stay there, and Eliyahu Navi blessed her and said that she can have a child, and then she has a child. And then what winds up happening is the story is the child dies, and she's all upset. She said, "I never asked for a child. You offered the child, and now I have a child, and now my child has died," and she's very upset. So Eliyahu Navi comes, and what happens is, Chala ben Ha'isha Balas Abayis, the son of the woman that had hosted Eliyahu Navi, so he gets sick. So boy Rachami, so Eliyahu Navi davens for him. So he's asking for Hashem to give him the key for bringing the dead back to life, because he wants to revive this dead child. So Amri Lay, so they said in Shemaim, Shalosh Miftachos Lo Nimsru L'Shaliach, there are 3 keys, and you cannot give over to a messenger that you can give over to a messenger, right? And what are they? Shel Chaya, the key to be able to helping people have children. V'shel Geshamim, the one to have rain. V'shel Tchias Amesim, and the one to revive the dead. So Yomru, so the people will say, Shtayim biyad Talmud ve'echad biyad Harav. How can we give you both the key for the rain and the key for bringing people back to life? And Hashem only retains the one key? That doesn't make sense, right? That means 2 keys for the student, 1 key for the master. Hashem has to have more keys. If he's going to give away one, he's going to give away one at a time, not more than one. So therefore, Aitzi ha ushkil hai. So we will give you, in Shemaim they said, we'll give you the ability to bring somebody back to life, but you have to return the key for rain. And so therefore, so Dichsiv, the pasuk says, Lech hayra'eh el achav vet namatar. That's when Hashem told Eliyahu, who says, now you got to go to Achav, rain's coming. Right? Now he's revived the son, so now he says, okay, now rain's coming, and you should be aware of that. Darashahu Galila Kamid Rav Chisda. Certain Galileans said in front of Rav Chisda, Mashal de Eliyahu. This parable of Eliyahu, what is it like? Legavra letarkei legale ve'abdei lemiftechei. It's like somebody who leaves his house, locks the door, and then loses the key. Right? Then he can't get back in, right? He went out, he made a promise based on the presumption that he had the key to get the rain, and then he didn't have the key anymore, and now he's not in charge of the rain.
And no one else was home at the time.
That's, yes. So they had to go ask for Hashem got the key back. Darash Rabbi Yossi B'tzipori. So Rabbi Yossi made the following explanation in Tzipori. Abba Eliyahu Kapton. He says our father Eliyahu, he says, is a Kapton. A Kapton is somebody who is very punctilious, is that the word for it? He's very precise.
Easily offended.
He's easily offended. Eliyahu Navi's character is always, he's being very tough on people. That's the nature of Eliyahu Navi in the books. So meanwhile, Hava Ragil Lemesi Gabe. Well, Eliyahu Navi used to come and spend time and learn with Rabbi Yossi. Okay? And so that's how he knew him personally. Right? Eliyahu Navi doesn't die, and so therefore hundreds of years later, there he is learning with Rabbi Yossi. He didn't show up for his chavrusa, 3 days, Eliyahu Navi. So Kiyasa, when he came back, Amar Le, Amai Lo Asamari, he said, why weren't you here? So Amar Le says, Kapton Karso, I was offended. You called me a Kapton. That was not nice. So he says, Amar Le, Ha Dekaman Dekakapid Mar. He says, that's because you didn't show up because you're a Kapton, right? Anybody else would have like, big, he called me a name, right? You, that's the whole point, right? You call me, I call your name, you don't show up for 3 days.
It's accurate.
What's a kapton?
Kapton is somebody who is easily offended.
Oh, yeah.
So, like someone who's fragile or delicate.
Right? So we'll last little piece, and then we're going to stop for the siyam. So lo yidbak biyadchem omam min acherim. You're not allowed to take. Yeshua said you're not allowed to take anything from the destroyed. Anything from Yericho, you're not allowed to touch it. Kolzman shirasham ba'olam charon af ba'olam. We said whenever the wicked people are in the world, Hashem is angry. So man rishayim, who are these wicked people? Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says ganave. These are thieves, right? That's what makes these wicked people. Or they stole the property from the city, and so thieves are the wicked people that we want to be able to get rid of. We're going to stop here. We'll finish our siyam with Tan Rabbanan. We begin Meseches Makos.
We're done?
It's interesting. The gematria